Hello everyone, welcome to Sharmit. In this session, we are going to discuss about another very important topic of Angular Decorators, where we are going to just compare all the decorators that we have learned so far. Okay, because we all know that from last couple of sessions we are focusing mainly on the decorators for dependency injection, right? And so far we have covered all the decorators like skip, skip, self, host, optional, right? So these all things we have already discussed. Now I know like it's a bit difficult for everyone to understand the core difference between all these decorator. Now to just explain that thing in a very simple or layman terminology, what I will do, I will show you one comparative chart for DI decorators, and then we will try to understand the core difference between all these things. Okay, now but before we proceed further with the session, I just recommend you to please go and check out the previously released sessions first, because they all are in proper sequence and sync. So if you follow them sequentially, then it would be much more easier for you to understand the ongoing topic, because for timing we are just mainly focusing on how to use Angular decorators, right? And what is the difference between Angular decorators. And for the complete course, you can refer the Sharmit digital course book, which is completely available which is completely free for all of you and available in the description box with the name the Sharmit digital course books. Okay, all right, so let's move ahead. Here you can see we have one heading that shows Angular 19 course by Sharmit. After this heading we will put heading 2 that will show today's topic name. So I will write here comparative chart for service dependency injection. Comparative chart, not char, it should be chart. Yeah, comparative chart for service dependency injection decorators in Angular. So this is our main topic for today. Okay, now what we have here, like we have this comparative chart. After this comparative chart, like to explain this thing, I have already kept one image here, so I will just show you that chart so that we can go through it together. Okay, the first case is default or no decorator. Okay, default and no decorator. So here you can see we have multiple columns, like one is showing the decorator, second is showing the what it does, third column is showing where Angular looks, fourth column shows example use case. Okay, so let's go one by one with all column and all values. The first is default and no decorator. That means if you are not using any kind of decorator, so in that case what it does, it injects by class type automatically. Okay, so it injects by class type and automatically, because we are not specifying anything there, right? Second thing is where Angular looks in this case. So in this case Angular will look at root injector or the closest provider hierarchy in the hierarchy. Okay, it will look for the root injector or the closest provider in hierarchy. Okay, next we have example of use case. That means where we can see such kind of things. So in situations like most of the services like logger service, auth service, we will use it. Okay, one thing is clear. Now the next one is inject and token, where we can see manually specify which token to inject needed for non-class values, string and configs. Okay, inject token means like here you can see what basically it does, it manually specify which token to inject. It forces the Angular to inject that particular token and mainly needed for a non-class values, strings, configs. Okay, then where Angular looks for these kind of tokens, token look in the injector tree. Okay, so it follows the injector tree, and according to the injector tree it will move and proceed further. Then we have inject API URL, which is nothing but a use case of this inject token, because we use it for injecting API URL app config values, and multi providers. So these all things will be related to only that inject token. Okay, then we have optional. Optional is also a decorator. So the question comes, what is optional decorator? So optional decorators mainly used if service not found. So what basically it does, it if the service not found, it returns the null instead of error. Okay, so we all know as a developer we don't want to crash the application in any circumstances, in any condition, right? So just to make sure that everything goes good, what we will do, we will use the optional decorator, which will check if the service, it will check if the service is not found, then in that case it will simply return null instead of error. Okay, this thing is clear. Now the next one is normal lookup, where Angular looks for this optional decorator. So it normally look up root, parent and child. Firstly it will check in the root, then parent, then child, but the result can be a null value, because optional means it is we are not sure that every time it will return the value. Maybe in some situation it won't return the value. Okay, example use case, optional features, plugins, example like analytics service may or may not be present. Yes, so suppose if you are using any analytics service, plugins or optional features, so where we are not sure whether it will return the values every time or not, so in such situation we will utilize the optional decorator. Okay, then we have self. Now its name is self-explanatory, that if you are using the self decorator, it will checks only for the current injector, that means component itself, not beyond that. Okay, so it won't go to parent or root, it will only check the providers for in the component itself, or you can say in the current injector. If it finds the provider in the current injector, it will provide the required output. If it is not there, it will simply return nothing. Okay, or maybe it will fail if you are not handling it. So this is the thing. Okay, now question comes, where the self Angular looks, where Angular looks for self. In as its name suggests, it only look for the self block, not at the parent or root lookup. Okay, then we have example. So if each child should have its own service instance, then in that case we will utilize the self decorator. Okay, so if each child should have its own instance, if you want to build an application where you want that each child have their own service instance, then in that case we will utilize the service. Okay, we will utilize the self decorator for the service. Okay, then we have similar to that, but it completely opposite to that, that is skip self. Its name is also suggesting that skip current injector, start look up from parent upward. So what it will do, it will force Angular to not look at the component, its own component. In above one, in self, Angular forces to look in component injector or component itself, but here it is restricting it. It is asking, Angular is forcing to skip the current injector and start lookup from parent and upward. So basically where does it looks in the, so it looks from parent to grandparent, then root, but not in the self component. It will, if let's say if you have provided the provider in self component, so it won't look at there. Okay, it only look for parent and upwards, so it skips self. Okay, examples, form control inside a parent form, always use parent's form service. So in these kind of situation we will use the skip self. Then we have host. Host means check self plus immediate parent host only. So basically it checks self component and immediate parent host only. Okay, it won't climb higher than that the parent. So if someone asks you where Angular looks in this case, so it looks for self, parent and stops there, only for self and parent. So basically in situation where you are ensuring that child uses only parents provider, not grandparents provider, then in that case we can utilize the host decorator. Okay, so I hope this comparative chart helped you to understand the concept in a detailed way, because here like we just discuss like how these all things are going comparatively. Okay, in the next session we will discuss few more things. So thank you for watching Tech Sharmit.